Bildungsroman, a centuries-old European tradition, is also one that Walker adopts for the formation of her story. William Meister's Apprentice by Goethe is considered the first Bildungsroman novel. The word itself transfers as a novel of education. Popular novels of this type include Jane Eyre, Emma, David Copperfield, Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, and To Kill a Mockingbird. The general structure of the Bildungsroman includes the following. Loss. The central character experiences a profound emotional loss at the beginning of the story or during childhood or adolescence. Journey. Either literal or metaphorical, searching for answers to big questions. Conflict and personal growth that puts them at odds with society. Eventually, the protagonist accepts the ideals of society and society accepts them. Maturity demonstrates psychological growth and change. Part of the maturation process is to enter into the larger world, cosmopolitan exposure. The traditional protagonist in the Bildungsroman has, with few exceptions, been male, and the structure established by male writers and critics. Women writers and critics have led to the transformation of the genre. Carol Lazaro, in the female Bildungsroman, calling it into question, argues that women novelists are redefining the form as a European idealized form, subject to formal dictates. John and others state that women novelists trouble the normativity of the idealized form and promote instead instability of the key terms and concepts it wishes to center. Those key terms and concepts are masculine gender, youthful malleability, cosmopolitan life, and education. In 1970, Toni Morrison transformed the genre with the publication of The Bluest and Sula in 1972. While The Learning Tree by Gordon Parks, 1963, and Hero Ain't Nothing But a Sandwich by Alice Childress, 1973, followed the formal dictates with male protagonists, Morrison, like Zora Neale Hurston before her, introduces female central characters. The Bildungsroman, which focuses on a single character, is transformed in Sula because Morrison has two young women, Sula and Nell, on the journey to maturity. Walker followed the formal dictates of the genre more closely, except that she too has a female protagonist. Celie's loss in the beginning of the novel is profound. She loses her virginity to rape by a man she believes is her father, her mother to death, her children taken from her. She is 14 years old. Her metaphorical journey begins with a search for answers. In a letter to God, she writes, quote, "Maybe you can give me a sign, letting me know what is happening to me." Her literal journey to maturation begins when she is forced to marry Albert Johnson and goes with her cow from her home to his. Conflict and personal growth take place in the house of her husband, whom she calls Mr. Scholar Calvin Herndon, in his deeply perceptive book, The Sexual Mountain in Black Women Writers, arguably was the first to suggest that the color purple is a neo-slave narrative. However, the novel does not fit as well into the contemporary definition of slave narrative or narrative of slavery, even though Celie is forced to provide unpaid labor and sex. The central conflict arises when Celie discovers that Mr. has hidden the letters from her sister, Nettie. She becomes enraged and emboldened by her anger. She begins to question everything. Personal growth follows her entry into the larger world by going to Memphis with Shug Avery. Celie says to her abusive husband, quote, "It's time to leave you and enter into creation." Memphis is the cosmopolitan experience for Celie. It is here that she turns her labor into profit by making and selling folk pants. Here, too, is where Walker deviates from the final aspect of the Bildungsroman. Because Celie is a Black woman, she is already at odds with society. And even if she does accept the ideals of society, society does not embrace her. Instead, Walker has Celie embrace herself, and she and Mr. reconcile and become friends.